pervasive, ruthless attempts by property developers and big corporations to carve up public spaces for private profit. There is a direct link between that logic, and all of us here today are right to stand up and demand more democratic control over the future of our city and over the future of our public spaces, but that carries with it a responsibility to stand in solidarity with First Nations people's calls for land rights and justice. Woo! I've been invited here today partly because I was very involved in the campaign to stop the Gabba redevelopment and to save East Brisbane State School and Raymond Park, and we put a nail in that coffin. But I was also invited here because I was, for better or worse, the first city councillor who started suggesting that the Victoria Park golf course should be shut down and that this space should be opened up as public parkland. Some of you will be aware that a few years ago I was the first city councillor, in fact I was the only councillor in all of Brisbane to vote against Brisbane City Council putting in a bid to host the Olympics, and I stand by that decision. And the reason I voted against Brisbane hosting the Olympics was because I read the independent reports from economists around the world which very clearly show that the modern Olympics is a Trojan horse for big business to hold perverse, profit-making orgies at the public expense, with a little bit of sport tacked onto the side for decoration. And we see that exemplified here very clearly with the plans for Burrumbin, with Victoria Park. If you haven't read the plans for yourself, look at them closely. This is not just Olympic venues, this is an asset sale of epic proportions. The leading plans for this park include selling off 9 hectares of public land for private residential and commercial development. Shame on them! Shame! 9 hectares of the site sold off for private development to cross-subsidise a stadium that we don't want. That's 1/7 of the entire public park sold off for private development. This isn't just an Olympics proposal, this is a developer's wet dream, and we are right to stand against it loudly. Just to cut through the propaganda, you will have heard some proponents of this proposal say that they're creating more public space by building over the ICB expressway. In fact, when you look at their tricky mathematics, the reason they're making that claim is that they don't count the existing driving range as public green space. Isn't that funny? So there's actually a net loss of public open space, of public green space, and I defy anyone to stand in the middle of King George Square at noon and tell me that those tiny concrete plazas around their proposed stadiums are a satisfactory subsidiary for these amazing rolling green lawns. There's a big difference between concrete plazas and genuine public green space. But the real reason I am so outraged about this proposal, that not only do they want to sell off several billion dollars of public land, they also expect on top of that the public to spend several billion dollars building a new stadium at a time when the government says they don't have the money for public housing, they don't have the money for public schools, they don't have the money for public hospitals, they don't have the construction labour, they don't have the materials, and yet strangely an Olympic stadium that will make huge profits for the private construction and private development industries is considered a priority. What are they thinking? Tell me this, is their plan really that a giant new stadium will sit here empty 300 days a week while young people across this city who've been locked out of the housing market are forced to sleep outside in the shadows of the stadium? Shame on them!
Shame!
I am outraged, and we should all be outraged. Not only is this a ridiculous proposal from an environmental perspective, not only are we losing the green lungs of the city, not only are they making a mockery of claims that this stadium will be carbon neutral. The entire Brisbane Olympics is going to be carbon neutral apparently. How do you build a carbon neutral stadium on a park like this? It's bullshit! It is bullshit! And we are right to protest. We are right to be angry. And so the message here today is not just that we are saying no to a stadium here. It's not just that we are saying no to waste, saying no to misuse of government resources. We are also saying yes. We are saying yes to public green space in the inner city. We are saying yes to respecting Aboriginal culture. We are saying yes to using money and construction resources for public housing, schools, hospital and public transport infrastructure. And we are saying no to developers making a profit off private land or public land. that when the bulldozers come, will you be ready to lock on? Because I will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Just conscious of time because Andrea reckons that helicopters are up, so here we are in the shade. Look, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our last speaker here. Talma Mahana is from the local school and she is amazing. So I'm just going to hand over to her to finish up for us.
Hi. Just a question before I start. I know that some of you want to get on with it, so I'll try to be a little bit brief. My name is Talma Mahana Morris, and I'm in Year 4 this year at Calvin Grove Junior School. I feel very strongly about keeping the park because I care very much about the wildlife and the citizens the park is important to. Firstly, the animals. Without the park, where will they go? I know some might say there are trees everywhere, but the park is a truly special place with the space and facilities to have hundreds, if not thousands of animals who might not have the same things elsewhere. Secondly, the trees and other plants. These play a very important role in keeping us and the ecosystem alive. For those who may say you can always rebuild ecosystems, these sorts of things are very fragile and hard to replicate once destroyed. Thirdly, the people. With the park gone, people may have to figure out depending on things like stadiums, indoor playgrounds, which just take even more money to quality. Stadiums aren't free, and soon, fun and exercise might not be cheaper. One day we might not have enough people around town for free. Stadiums don't provide
Look, I was a teacher and I met Mahana just about a week ago and I asked her if she'd like me to help her with her speech. I was an observer. Those are her words. She's remarkable. Okay, now, guys. Okay.